This is CJSW's Municipal election coverage, your audio guide to Calgary's 2025 election. This series gives you interviews with candidates running for office, exploring the people, policies, and issues that will shape Calgary's future. We're broadcasting from CJSW 90.9 FM, located at the University of Calgary, on the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. Before we begin, we would like to remind listeners that the views expressed in this podcast are those of the candidates and the interview subjects, and not those of CJSW or its staff. At Calgary's northwestern edge, Ward 1 offers a cross-section of the city's past, present, and future. Bordering downtown to the south and the city limits to the west, Ward 1 offers walkable streets with easy access to the Bow River and the downtown core. A space with strong local identity and deep historic roots, Ward 1 is at the center of discussions around densification, zoning, and affordability. The communities included in Ward 1 are Bowness, Crestmont, Greenwood/Greenbriar, Haskayne, Osprey Hill, Rocky Ridge, Royal Oak, Scenic Acres, Silver Springs, Tuscany, Valley Ridge, and Varsity. We went directly to citizens of Ward 1 to ask them what they're feeling this election season.
Neighborhood's pretty chill, lots of bike paths, close to the river. It's pretty self-contained.
While some residents praised the area's landscape and the proximity to amenities in Ward 1, they also had complaints about housing affordability and traffic flow. We reached out to nominated candidates and trustees running in the 2025 general election to participate in this podcast. The following interviews feature only those candidates who responded and were available to participate within our production timeline. To ensure consistency, we selected about 1 minute of each candidate's response to include in this episode. The audio is presented unedited, and we've aimed to fairly represent each participant's message and voice. We remain committed to providing space for all voices and encourage voters to learn more about every candidate by visiting electionscalgary.ca. Sonia Sharp was elected as councillor of Ward 1 in 2021. After taking on responsibilities outside of her ward during her term, Sharp has entered the mayoral race for this election. She is representing Communities First this fall. Without an incumbent candidate in the running, we have some new faces entering the race in Ward 1. It's time to hear from the candidates themselves. We asked each of them the same set of questions to help you compare their priorities, values, and vision for Ward 1. On social services, what do you believe is the city's role in supporting vulnerable Calgarians through social services such as mental health support and harm reduction? From independent candidate Ali Unwala.
I think, great question, and these are all very important factors affecting a lot of Calgary residents. Coming from a healthcare background, this really hits home, and I believe the city needs to do whatever it can, in its jurisdiction to really aid in these manners. Affordable housing is key, and having programs dedicated to people that are struggling or potentially looking for social welfare should be available at all types of media. So that includes, if they're looking for something on a Google search, Calgary, where can I find aid? Definitely, we need to be out there as a city council member. We need to push those programs out. They are available, but many people don't know about them. And so that'd be a key in my campaign.
Running with the Calgary Party, Joey Nowak.
Yeah, I think the city, its number one job is to make sure everyone in Calgary can thrive. So to that, our social services that are really there to provide that foundation, those enabling conditions, I think is critical. So mental health being one of those incredibly important ones that cuts across so many different areas and affects different outcomes. So making sure that those are accessible, coordinated, getting to people and meeting them where they're at, so important. And affordable housing being another one of those social supports that, again, it's just those really foundational pieces that set people up for success. I really think that the city has a role to play on that prevention side of setting people up in a way that they can thrive.
From independent candidate Matthew Fritz.
I think the city has a very crucial role in assisting with social supports. I have a very close friend that works with Woods Homes, and I've been very impressed with everything that they've done recently. He was formerly just a counselor. He was taking care of kids at their location in Parkside, and has since moved to their Inglewood location. I found out that they're actually training people within a kitchen, so giving them job skills and helping them to integrate into society that way. I thought that was very beneficial because my buddy that was a counselor also wanted to get into cooking ramen, oddly enough. And it kind of worked out both ways. So when we can integrate that into the community, such as Inglewood, such as Parkside, have social supports that are going to help people with their mental health and other social issues, I mean, the city has a responsibility for it, for sure.
On affordable housing, what specific policies or initiatives would you support to improve housing affordability and accessibility in Calgary? From Ali Unwala.
So this is one of the top 3 points of my campaign, affordable housing. And I think really the only way to do it is to budget appropriately. If someone doesn't know what's coming at them or how much they're going to need, next month for anything, including essentials, it's tough. It's tough to go from, month to month. That's why I think budgeting at the city council level, making sure we have our budget only focused on essentials, so police, fire being examples, can then help residents get good, affordable housing because now they have a budget to work with. Their taxes are set. Again, I'm campaigning on no increase at all on taxes for the next 4 years, and having a budget set that families know what they're going to be responsible for so they can spend appropriately and ultimately lead to affordable housing.
From Joey Nowak.
I'm really happy to see that we have moved the needle on creating more housing in the city with so many people coming here, 275 people a day. Critical that we are making space and making quality places for people to live. I think, though, that the city has really focused more on the number of housing units being the measure of success, and we really need to be making sure we're building the right housing in the right places. Part of that is non-market housing and affordable housing, and we have not been meeting those targets. So really putting an emphasis on that, accountability on that, using the levers of the city in terms of the land that it's giving up and how quickly it's moving through those processes and approvals to be making more affordable housing. But then in terms of housing that's affordable, so market housing, also really making sure that the city is keeping track of rents and housing prices and what it can be doing. And one of the main ways, again, is for the city to be making sure we are having more quicker approvals, more reliable approvals, because delays cost money and add to the price of our housing.
From Matthew Fritz.
Affordable housing is huge. I mean, it's crucial. I bought my first house about 10 years ago, and the process was very long and a lot of headaches due to prices. Trying to find the right spot, trying to decide between a condo, a townhouse, a detached home. It's very difficult, and it took a lot. Like, it took about 20 years of saving before I could actually put a down payment on. When I think about other groups that may not be working at the moment that do need a roof over their heads, and if they can have access to affordable housing, it's going to change their lives. And we have a very large population, but they cannot all afford a single detached home. They cannot all afford a condo. So every development that we have, I think that we need to be considering a percentage of that to be incorporated into affordable housing.
On public safety, how would you balance community safety with calls for accountability and reform in our police, fire, and emergency services? From Ali Unwala.
So one of the biggest themes I see as I'm out door knocking in all the Ward 1 communities is safety. And, we do have some very safe communities. We have some that need to need more work on in Ward 1. But even the safe communities, Rocky Ridge, Royal Oak, specifically in Ward 1, I am having residents saying they still do feel that traffic safety is an issue, especially on small roads. And this is where we do need more police presence, in my opinion. I started the PACE car program about 8-9 years ago now, where we had designated people within the communities watch for speeding cars. That's just a start. I want to put in more traffic barriers, more police presence in playground zones to help with some of these safety measures within the communities. And that goes across for all the Ward 1 communities.
From Joey Nowak.
I think for public safety, you need to be looking at both how are we making things safer today, and then how are we improving and getting at the root causes that are causing those challenges today. So I think we need, for today, we need more peace officers. We need more integrated health teams. Our police are called to such a diverse set of circumstances, but they can be best served in sort of those really critical emergency situations, and to have more integrated help teams where we're bringing social assistants and mental health experts. I think having those wraparound teams are so critical to really being effective to supporting this sort of complex situations that we're seeing that are affecting our community safety. And on the prevention side, I think we really need to be looking at what is causing a lot of these challenges that we're seeing, and a lot of that is housing, and making that housing more affordable, building more affordable housing, and more coordinated supports, again, so that we are getting the support that people need, meeting them where they're at. And by working on both sides of prevention and also improving safety today is ultimately going to get us where we need to go.
From Matthew Fritz.
Public safety is a very big topic. My dad was a Calgary police officer for 26 years. He had a very successful career. A large portion of that he spent in charge of the school resource officers that we put into our Calgary schools. So I've seen the work that he's done and the benefit that it had on younger students, especially in an educational forum. And I think that's where it starts best, when we need to introduce affordability, and we need to have accountability for our other officers out on the streets. I've heard a number that we have about 19% of the Calgary police force on leave currently because of mental health and other issues that are preventing them from coming into work. I realize that we also need other programs within the service to support our officers so that they can do the best job that they can out in the street with the public.
On transportation, what is your vision for improving traffic flow and public transit in your ward and across the city? From Ali Unwala.
Transportation, again, I think we need to do a much better process in getting things approved. Green Line's a perfect example. We need better transportation methods. The city is growing, specifically to Ward 1. We have, our communities are growing every day, exponentially growing, and people are looking for alternatives. Carpooling, we're really trying to get carpooling going, but we need better transit systems in place, more bus routes, potentially more C-train stops as well. Parking at the C-train stops. It's impossible to even find parking. So now, you have people with good intentions to use the C-train, but they can't find parking. So they're having to go walk. So we need a lot more thoughtful approach to transit to make sure, as a growing city, everyone is able to get the right type of transport that they want.
From Joey Nowak.
So Ward 1 up in the northwest, on the one hand, there's a number of neighborhoods that are on the transit line, and the reliability and frequency of transit and LRT up in the northwest, from my own use and from folks I've been talking to, is can always be better, but is pretty solid. But bus routes are really a pain point for a number of neighborhoods in Ward 1. So really focusing on that reliability and increasing the frequency every 10 minutes along our major bus routes. Also expanding our max bus routes, just to make sure people can get where they need to go. I mean, transit, yes, it's about schedules and routes, but it's really about city building. We have to make sure that in a city that's growing at this pace and at this size, that people have that accessibility and are able to get to school, to work, to opportunities. So really focusing on expanding the bus routes, expanding the Green Line all the way.
From Matthew Fritz.
I mean, transportation is vital for our city. We have such a large sprawl, and people want to be able to drive to and fro from work. But with changes to the climate, with issues with pollution, with road usage, we have bike lanes. We do need mass transit. So building the Green Line is huge. It's not going to affect us in Ward 1 because it's in other quadrants of the city. But once we have like those big transportation connections to other parts of the city going out to the airport, it's going to help us revise our bus lines and make more efficient usage of transportation corridors, getting downtown, getting from downtown. You want to be able to move around in a timely manner. So I think that we definitely need to support and look at the most efficient ways for our city transit to get around.
On environment. How would you approach environmental sustainability in Calgary, particularly around land development, waste management, and water conservation? From Ali Unwala.
So my approach there is quite simple. I'm against one-size-fits-all blanket rezoning policy. I truly believe that these things need to be taken with caution, not at speed. And money isn't always, the end game. A lot of these communities have a lot of history, a lot of natural parks that, residents need to be approached at before kind of doing, multi-family accommodations or different types of projects on this land, right? So I do think for sure there needs to be a lot more care and approach, and that includes even environmental protection. So by going out and having a one-size-fits-all rezoning policy, you are affecting a lot of these areas of the city that have a lot of heritage and a lot of history associated with them. And that's where I think, as a city council member, I would like to definitely have an impact.
From Joey Nowak.
Again, going back to the city being in this tremendous moment of growth, I think we need to be building up and not just out. I think that continuing to build further out on the city limits is only going to get us so far, and of course puts strain on infrastructure, but also our environment. So while that's part of the piece in terms of how our city is growing, we have to also be looking at how we're building within the city in a thoughtful way. So in terms of things we can be doing infrastructure-wise here in the city, I mean, definitely looking at our tree canopy. So at the sort of street level, we have goals for the tree canopy. How are we making that easier in terms of private and public trees? In our redevelopment, how are we making sure that we're not losing mature trees, because trees, that canopy is so critical to shade and temperature and resilience. Looking at where we can be putting in more places for rain gardens, for that, catching that water, I think is really important as well. And then also transit. I mean, transit is just one of those huge pieces that if we're making transit more accessible, more reliable, that people are using it more, giving those mobility options is another really incredible lever for hitting our sustainability goals.
From Matthew Fritz.
I think the city has taken steps to improve land development regarding waste reduction, regarding water management, water mitigation, but we can do a lot more. So we have our recycling programs, we have our compost programs, we have our landfill. But when we're developing land parcels in Calgary, we also need to be planting trees. I think it's a huge thing that has been overlooked for quite some time. We have trees that need to be improved or taken out altogether. We have a huge grant from the federal government to plant. I think they want to donate about $66 million to plant thousands of trees and improve our diversity in the canopy in Calgary. So I would encourage City Council to look at exactly where those trees could be best placed, and that will help the environment to replenish itself and hold on to more water, compost things better, and just be a better place to live.
On community, in what ways do you try to give back to your community? From Ali Unwala.
This to me is the reason I got involved, actually. Giving back to my community, I don't feel it as giving back. I feel it as being part of the community. Ward 1 I've lived in for the last, 15 years. And when I first moved there, I got involved, with the community association. I have that experience with the ROCA board, Rocky Ridge Royal Oak Community Association board, where actually none of the other Ward 1 candidates have that experience. I was on that board for 4 years, and, it was a great learning experience and a great way to give back to the community. We did many events in the community. I spearheaded at the time a 3-on-3 hockey tournament, which brought out kids, adults, and at the Royal Oak School. And then we also did a 3-on-3 basketball tournament at the new park associated with William D. Pratt School. So to me, those were so near and dear. It was great meeting community members, having a cause and getting them to really meet other neighbors, come out, enjoy some sport, which again is near and dear to me. And those types of events I think are so important.
From Joey Nowak.
I've been involved in a community association board. I've led a community asset mapping initiative. And to me, a lot of that is because up in the Northwest, we have a tremendous amount of assets, whether it's open spaces, parks, pathways, playgrounds, even strip malls I consider an asset. But I think really making those neighborhoods in the Northwest walkable and vibrant requires that we reimagine a bit what these assets can be used for and how do we make them walkable and more vibrant. And so really working with community to think through, if this is underused, what can we do with this? How can we think about this strip mall parking lot differently? If this park is falling a bit behind, what are different ways that we can think about making it more accessible, more multi-generational? What else could be happening here? More multi-use. That kind of work gets me really excited. I think it's a way to bring folks together. You can build such connection and community by building together. So just getting involved at the community level, thinking about what we have, building new opportunities and new connections is different ways that I've been involved.
From Matthew Fritz.
I think when I was 10 years old, I was involved with my very first election. And to me, it was very exciting. I got to go door knocking with the candidate, meet people, see what other people are living their lives in the communities. And I've noticed that over the past 4 years, this is one of the bigger reasons why I decided to run in the campaign. I've always had voluntary experience. I've always supported our candidates. I've always gone to community events. And we've hosted fundraisers, we've had elections, we've had campaign breakfasts, we've had arts and culture, like little festivals that pop up everywhere. And even just like small businesses that are trying to expand their name, they have a lot of impact on the community in that sense. So I feel like voluntary hours, contributions in the community make a huge difference. This is the first time that I'll be running in an election as a candidate, but I believe that it is a product of everything that I've contributed, just time and interest and meeting people over, I would say, the past 20 years.
On arts and culture. How will you support local arts and culture as a part of Calgary's identity? From Ali Unwala.
So, I think arts and culture more and more every day now are becoming an important and I think integral part of Calgary's community. And we need to support all projects that are brought to the table to City Council to protect, the character of arts and culture. And there's specific city areas throughout the city where a lot of these things are common and really bring a lot of, good tourism even to Calgary, coming to see projects, coming to see shows. To me, a big part is you look at East Village, really trying to get that part reinvigorated and bring some of these projects and people and shows back to the city where residents can enjoy it, or people coming to visit Calgary can really see how detailed and how thoughtful that community is and how important they are to our city.
From Joey Nowak.
So I think it's so important, particularly when we have so many new folks coming to the city. How do they feel like they belong? What do they see as those signals that they belong, or they're being called to they're welcomed in to contribute? So I think continue to think how we can use city spaces. So there's more opportunities like for murals, and more opportunities for public spaces to bring in that art and culture. More buskers in different places in the suburbs and our transit stations. I think there's a lot more where, especially with our youth that I've spoken to as well, they're looking for opportunities for those kind of outlets. So how can we make these a lot more accessible and visible to provide those outlets for arts and culture across the city, and also really investing in our artists. It's one thing to talk about the spaces, and that's important, but again, sort of in making sure that they're getting opportunities, paid opportunities where we can, opportunities to come together as a community, so they can find strength with each other, and making sure that we are really acknowledging the cultural, the social, and the economic contributions of this amazing community here in Calgary.
From Matthew Fritz.
I think Calgary's arts and culture scene is very exciting these days. I think it's blowing up. We have more people expressing themselves, whether this be on social media or, just at home. Different families are producing, I've seen paintings that will blow your mind. But I think it's just a responsibility and exciting to support our arts and culture. We have festivals in Bowness. Every summer, they're just growing nonstop. So we have more vendors coming down, we have more people partaking, and it's very exciting to see younger generations getting into and being exposed to some of the various artists that we have in our city.
On education. While education is largely a provincial responsibility, how do you see the city collaborating with school boards to support accessible and quality education in your ward? From Ali Unwala.
So, this is a topic key of mind in really across Alberta right now with everything that's happening in the education system and the textbooks issue. So I think, again, really an approach that needs to be taken. Education to me is one industry that hasn't evolved, and it seems like we need a lot more experts involved in really diagnosing what's going on with the education system. Where can we have an impact? We need our kids to really be at a young age exposed to a lot better, I think, education resources that will help them along as they go down the road of their career. And ultimately, we're sitting here in University of Calgary, having the right standards placed during their, elementary years and junior high years, the right systems in place that will really bring a great impact to them as they attend university.
From Joey Nowak.
So I think I would say two things. So one, the city does support their after-school programs, and what are some of those recreational programs that really enable students either to dig into different activities, or they're enriching their skills, they're exploring new opportunities. So making sure that those are accessible, bringing them into schools and doing what the city can to make those more accessible and ensure those opportunities are happening across our city. But I also think just making sure that students feel safe getting to school. So this touches on road safety. So I've spoken with so many folks and experienced it myself when walking along sidewalks. When your kids are walking, I have 2 kids myself, or biking to school, just feeling safe crossing in those crosswalks. So a lot more effort in terms of those traffic calming measures, enforcement, and making sure that kids feel safe getting to and from school, I think is a really important piece as well.
From Matthew Fritz.
I think it begins with being aware of the issues that the school board is facing. We have a lot of large class sizes that are a very prevalent issue with the province these days. Having new schools being built as our growing population exceeds Calgary city limits, and we have more density coming in. So Calgary's just doubling in size within the next 4 years, or reaching 2 million people in the next 4 years. But I think that a city council has a great opportunity to talk to our members of the school board, and just once we're aware of the issues that they find they're facing, if there's any roadblocks with any changes that they are looking to make, we could support them with ideas or proposals that they're bringing to the province. And literally any sort of communication leads to collaboration, and I think that would benefit the school system, especially in Ward 1 too.
We note that Indigenous groups have their own bodies of governance, but as we are on shared land, we dedicated a question to decolonization. What is your understanding of Calgary's responsibilities under the Truth and Reconciliation Calls to Action? From Ali Unwala.
This again is a very important topic. I think that the utmost and keymost thing is to actually acknowledge the truth. So, affirming the history and ongoing impact of colonialism. And then sharing our responsibility. So framing reconciliation as a shared responsibility. I would bring that to City Council and remind other council members that this is a deeply rooted and a shared responsibility that we need to do. And we've done a better job of it by recognizing Truth and Reconciliation Day now as well, September 30th every year. And that's a great start. But I think we need to connect this to municipal action. Support Indigenous-led cultural programming. I would do that across Ward 1 and across the city. Advocate for land acknowledgements as well, to be followed with real partnerships as well. Land use discussions with Indigenous leaders.
From Joey Nowak.
Yeah. The White Goose Flying Report is a really critical report in terms of how it translates Truth and Reconciliation Committee's recommendations here at the city from something abstract and broad to what are tangible things that we can be doing here. And the city has made some progress on that front. I will say, though, that the timelines sometimes have been blurry, that many of those recommendations are in the earlier planning phases. So it's a start, but bringing that accountability to make sure that we're continuing to move things forward is really important. There's been work done on the education front, and that relates to the truth and acknowledging the truth of different outcomes, why we see those different outcomes, of addressing those systemic barriers. So we have to continue on that front. And then the reconciliation is building those relationships, that reciprocity and that responsibility. So making sure that we are setting firm timelines and moving things forward.
From Matthew Fritz.
I mean, this is a big topic that's close to my heart. My mother, on my mother's side, we have Métis in our family. So my grandfather was Métis, my mother as well. She actually attended a residence school when she was in her early teens in northern Saskatchewan. And when I think about the gravity of our history in terms of truth and reconciliation and the city's responsibility in addressing that, I think we need to acknowledge, of course, that it exists, that we're on land, that we're all immigrants here, and we're sharing this space. So we need to acknowledge and hear what our Aboriginal groups are telling us. I think that there's a lot that we can learn from them and celebrate together, but really it starts with just listening to what they have to say.
Finally, we gave each candidate a moment to share any closing remarks. From Ali Unwala.
Thank you for giving me the chance to share my vision for Ward 1. At the heart of my campaign is a simple and powerful commitment to put families and communities first. I know the challenges Calgarians are facing right now: rising costs, concerns about safety, and a city that often feels disconnected from the people it serves. I bring both community experience and business experience to the table, and I am running because I believe we can do better. That means freezing taxes to help families make ends meet, making our streets safer and our transit more reliable, and standing up against one-size-fits-all decisions like blanket rezoning that don't reflect the character of our neighborhoods. I served this community as a volunteer, as a board member, and as a coach, and now I want to serve as your counselor. My responsibility is to listen, to work collaboratively, and to ensure City Hall lives within its means while still protecting the services that matter most. This election is about the future of our communities, and together we can build a stronger, safer, and more affordable Calgary. I'd be honored to earn your support. Thank you.
From Joey Nowak.
Right now, Calgary is at this incredible moment, and we're the fastest growing major city here in the country. We have this booming tech and innovation ecosystem, this arts and culture sector, and a diversifying economy. But I think that we haven't necessarily felt the benefits of this growth on our blocks and in our neighborhoods. We felt a lot of the cracks, from crowded rec centers to congestion to transit that's not happening and housing that's harder to afford. So I think that we need leadership that's focused less on political fights and more on practical solutions, and really focusing on how do we make daily life better for Calgarians. I think we need balance. We have to be investing in Calgary's big moves, but we have to make sure that growth delivers where it matters most, and that's on our streets. I really believe that strong cities start with strong neighborhoods, and that will be my focus, is making every day better on our blocks and in our neighborhoods.
From Matthew Fritz.
There are so many people that are coming to our city every year, and we need to be building housing, we need better transportation, we need safe communities. I think those are the 3 points that I'm running my campaign on. And I decided to get involved because over the last 4 years, there's been a number of decisions that I thought could have been made a little better. I know it's a big city, we have a big budget, and there is a lot to do, but I am focused in Ward 1 of just connecting our communities. I like to talk to the residents, I like to talk to our association members, I like to talk to literally anybody that wants to talk to me. And once we get that ball rolling, I find there's no limit to what we can do.
That wraps up our conversations with your ward candidates. We hope their insights help you feel more informed heading into the 2025 general election. Now, we're shifting our focus to another important group of elected officials, school board trustees. Trustees play a critical role in shaping the direction of public education. They're responsible for setting priorities, approving budgets, and making decisions that impact students, families, and communities across their school jurisdictions. While their work often happens behind the scenes, it has a direct effect on the quality of education in Calgary. Just like councillors, trustees are elected during the municipal election. To find out which board you vote for, whether it's the Calgary Board of Education, Calgary Catholic School District, or another publicly funded board, you can visit electionscalgary.ca and use the Where Do I Vote tool. We reached out to all nominated trustee candidates running in this ward, inviting them to participate in this podcast. The interviews you're about to hear include only those candidates who responded and were available within our production timeline. To keep things fair and concise, we've selected about 1 minute from each candidate's response. The audio is presented unedited, and we've done our best to ensure every participant's voice is clearly and accurately represented. Let's now hear from the trustee candidates running in this ward. What are your top 3 priorities for Calgary schools, and how do you plan to address them during your term? From Public School Board Trustee candidate Britt Hart.
My first priority is increased funding, which is very multi-layered because it is going back to the Minister of Education. My other priorities are community engagement and open and transparent communication. So I think reaching out to school boards, speaking with all of the engaged parties, students, parents, and administrators is key in making sure that they know how to access their board of trustees and reach supports within the education system.
From Public School Board Trustee candidate Sandra Grills.
So I think there's 3 key elements that everybody is concerned about when it comes to schools. One is classroom size, one is space, and the other is the complex needs within classrooms. Everybody is very concerned about that. One of the main ways that we we can address, I think, all three, is through appropriate funding. So we need to advocate to the Alberta government. We need to get Alberta funding in line with the rest of Canada. We are currently the lowest funded per student. So that's a major concern. And that's going to just take some really strong ongoing advocacy, discussions, constantly moving to get that addressed by the Alberta government. And then the other thing is looking at what we do have and how that is being utilized, and that good governance, right? I mean, a lot of what is happening in the classroom level is happening in the classroom level, but what we can do is support everyone within that system for how to best utilize the resources they currently have.
From Public School Board trustee candidate Jenny Regal.
I think first and foremost, I want to make sure that schools are safe and caring spaces for everyone. And I want to start with that one because I see it as basically initially a no-cost item. There are things that can be done in classrooms and in schools to make sure that students, staff, all adults in the building feel safe. There are things that can be done to ensure that policies are being followed, that processes are being followed, and people in the building know that it's a safe place to be. We've all heard stories about bullying in schools. Post-COVID, we've heard a lot about mental health concerns for students and for staff. And I think there's a lot that can be done now and must be done now to ensure that schools are safe places. I think the next thing is ensuring that there's appropriate funding.
How will you ensure equitable access to quality education for students across all communities, including those from marginalized or underserved backgrounds? From Britt Hart.
That's an incredible question. That is one of the things that's most important to me and why I love public education. I think, again, it comes down to increased funding, making sure that teachers have the right supports within classrooms to be able to address English as second language, English as an additional language, dealing with the different complexities of students and the different behaviors and situations and places that students are coming from, making sure that, again, teachers and administrators have the support to work with all of these students. I think it's also important to advocate for parents being involved in student council or parent council, making sure that they know what's happening within their schools and they know how to reach the different types of supports that are available to them through public education.
From Sandra Grills.
So, I mean, obviously equitable access is what public education is all about. It is why we have public education, and we need to, there is a difference between equal and equitable, and we do need to look at schools that have higher needs, that have more complex classrooms. How do we address that, whether it is through funding, whether it is through change in the space availability, whether it is in the number of teachers or supports that are available, ensuring that equity is in place by truly addressing those complex needs, because we are a growing society, and what is happening in the classroom is becoming increasingly more complex with the number of students that are coming in and the needs that they have. And so being able to support in how do we address that with distinct, is it parent, or pardon me, is it extra teachers, or is it extra funding, or is it extra, librarian? What is it? And making sure that is addressed across CBE.
From Jenny Regal.
A trustee's job is to not just look at his or her two wards, but to look at the entire city. So we have to look at where the data shows us there are greater needs than in other places. Because our funding is so limited right now, unfortunately, I'm sure it must feel like medical triage, except this is educational triage, to make sure that kids are getting what they need. We have to make sure that all resources are being used as optimally as possible. And then when we know we're running out of money, which they must do every year, we need to make sure that everyone in society, the government and citizens, voting citizens, need to understand that investment in education is a priority. Our kids are worth it. And all of the research is showing right now that kids need supports. All kids deserve supports. We shouldn't have to pick and choose, and we shouldn't have to do more with less.
How will you engage with parents, teachers, and students, and the broader community to ensure transparency and responsiveness in decision-making? From Britt Hart.
I think as a trustee, we have this great opportunity to use social media. It is really underutilized, I've noticed, among the Board of Trustees currently. My background in communications makes it very natural for me to want to reach out and use digital communications in a way that hasn't been before. I also think engaging with school boards, typically trustees wait for schools to reach out to them and ask for support. I think making sure that you're introducing yourselves to your schools and reaching out to the parent councils is going to be something that's really important to me, so that parents and anybody else that's involved in their child's or their individual schooling knows how to access their trustee and how to access the resources they have available.
From Sandra Grills.
So clear communication is key. It's key in everything, not just in this. It's something that all of us have to do all the time, no matter what our job is. But ensuring that we are disseminating the information so that parents have clear, rapid access to that information is key. Being sure that it's accessible. So whether it's on the CBE website or whether it's newsletters out to parents within my ward or within the entire CBE, making sure that they get those constant touch points and rapid response when parents reach out. How do I move forward with this? How do I move forward with that? We need to, as trustees, be available to them to get them that information that they need as rapidly as possible. A lot of experience in the past of how do we make things more operationally efficient will come into this as well. How do I make myself more available and the information more available to parents?
From Jenny Regal.
I've been a teacher for many, many years. I know there's regular communications back and forth between school and community, between teachers and parents. The information is there. All you need to do is reach out or pay attention and be aware when the school is reaching out to you. That said, should I be lucky enough to become the trustee in Wards 1 and 2, I pledge to attend as many school council meetings as I'm invited to create as many opportunities as possible, to listen to the community. They're the people who live there in each of those neighborhoods. They're the ones most often with the kids in those schools. And they're going to know about some of those nitty-gritty kinds of issues that are starting to bubble up. I believe that trustees also need to make sure that they're listening to their employee groups by attending their monthly employee meetings and finding out what's going on and distilling all of that information into what is it that trustees can do and how can trustees support them in any advocacy work with the government in terms of additional supports.
What is your position on the role of schools in addressing issues such as mental health, inclusion, and anti-racism? How would you support initiatives in these areas? From Britt Hart.
I think that schools play perhaps the very most important part in society with addressing things like that. I think making sure that teachers have the right training and the right tools available to them to handle the complexity, again, of racism, different social issues, students that are facing abuse or disparity in any way. But it really comes down to making sure teachers are provided the support to be able to handle those complexities, because they absolutely will come up. And it's important that they understand and have the compassion to address things like that, and also that they can model those behaviors for students to be able to see as well how to deal with the complexity. Our city is growing. We have people coming from all over the place. So these things are really top of mind, and this is what public education provides, is these experiences outside of academic learning that you wouldn't necessarily get somewhere else.
From Sandra Grills.
Our kids spend a lot of their time in school, and it cannot be strictly, what academics are you learning? We absolutely need to address these, mental health issues. We need to address how people show up in society and engage with each other, and that needs to be addressed with teachers and with students. They spend just far too much time in a classroom to not have it be a part of the conversation. So absolutely, I would support initiatives that looked at a broader picture. We are building a society. We're not just building workers, and we're not just building grades. We are building people. And so, yes, any initiative that can support that works to build that equity for everybody, I would support.
From Jenny Regal.
Schools are supposed to be safe havens for everyone where we learn about each other. And we learn that those that look different from us have so much to offer us in terms of what we can understand about our world. When I went to school, it was white middle class. I'm that old. There weren't that many immigrants around when I went to school, those many decades ago. I've been teaching. I've seen the face of my children change in those classrooms. And it's critical that we understand what makes each of those children and each of their cultures special and unique, and how they can enrich our lives. Whether they're culturally different because they come from outside of Canada, whether they're culturally different because they're Indigenous. Schools are critical in making that happen, and we have to do everything we can to support the work in keeping them safe spaces where we can learn about each other and become better people.
With ongoing concerns about education funding and class sizes in Alberta, how will you advocate for the resources schools need while working within budget constraints? From Britt Hart.
That is a challenging question. My conversations that I've had with the Board of Trustees and my firsthand experience within schools show that there just is not enough funding. I have seen student councils and parent councils have to raise funds for classroom supplies, which is unfortunate. There are a number of classrooms within the city that are over 27 or 30 individuals, and that is unsustainable. It's truly unfair to teachers and to the students in those environments. I am not sure how the budget can be moved anymore to create more funding for these classrooms. It really comes down to strong advocacy to the government of Alberta. Just recently, in their most recent budget that was released, we increased funding by 4.5% overall, but we increased funding to private schools by 13%, which means that public education took a hit. Things like that need to be addressed. It's not helping the situation.
From Sandra Grills.
Mm-hmm. So, we have to work within the budget constraints. That's non-negotiable. But we need to advocate strongly for the Alberta government to readdress what is currently available for budget. Part of that, as the job of a trustee, is doing that advocacy work. But another thing is educating parents and other people within the system and other people who are stakeholders on how they can also advocate. So if we can provide that information to parents, that we can have a stronger force within Alberta and within the CBE pushing for that funding in order to get it in line with what is happening in the rest of Canada, then that's what we need to do, and that's one of the things that would be a primary focus.
From Jenny Regal.
Should I be elected, I would be looking to working with my 6 fellow trustees within the Calgary Board of Education, but then also creating networks around the province with trustees from Calgary Catholic, from Edmonton, from Rocky View, from Sturgeon, because we all have the same concerns. Education is underfunded. There's information from Stats Can and supported by the Fraser Institute that says that Alberta funds the least per student of any province in the country. That's not acceptable. Our children are worth more, and we as trustees, who have been given this duty, this sacred duty by the electorate to look after public schools in Alberta, need to work together to convince everybody the government, and society that an investment in public education is an investment in the future, and our kids deserve that. They deserve no less.
Is there anything else you want people to know? From Britt Hart.
I do want to say that the CBE has done an incredible job with the limited funding that they have. One stat that I wish was sort of applauded more was that we in Alberta have the highest among math, science, and literacy scores across the country. I think we're second in science, but highest in math and literacy. We are ranked second globally in math and literacy and seventh in science. That's huge. These are huge wins, especially when we're looking at the lowest student funding in the country. So the teachers and the administrators working within the CBE and working within the Edmonton Education Board are absolute heroes. They have done such a great job. They are working towards LEED certification. They are focused on sustainability. Being active within classrooms, I can see how attentive and caring most of these teachers are despite the challenges that they face. So,
from Sandra Grills.
My name is Sandra. I bring a lot of experience from arts leadership, from entrepreneurial. I believe strongly that good society is founded in good education. I'm a huge believer in public education. Both of my children went through the system and have finished up, and they're moving on to the next phase of life. But supporting our children it's not just a cliche, it is truth. Children are the future. It's a cliche because it's true. And so all of the decisions that we make in government, whether it is specifically about education or any other decision, needs to consider children in how we make those decisions, because that is the legacy that we are leaving. And so I feel extremely strongly about that, and that is what has prompted me to step in and run for school board trustee.
From Jenny Regal.
We need to create the spaces so that we can reduce the class sizes. But until those buildings are built, we've got to find other means. We've got to look at other interim solutions. And I know that the current trustees have examined that issue and have some thoughts on that. I look forward to joining that conversation about what do we do in the meantime. We still need to hire more teachers. We need to hire more educational assistants. Provide the people, and the people in the buildings who make decisions about staffing will make decisions that will maximize every individual in that school to the benefit of the kids. Teachers are very smart, creative people. Give them the means to support the kids, and they'll find creative, innovative ways of making sure that every child's needs are met every day to the best of their abilities. Unfortunately, there's no one in the system that can actually say that's happening right now. And that shouldn't be. Our kids deserve better.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of CJSW's Municipal Election Coverage. I hope today's conversation brought you a little closer to your community and the people who want to lead it. I'm your host, Emma, and all of the source material for this episode can be found in the episode description. Remember to visit electionscalgary.ca for more information on every candidate and to check your voter registration. Again, we would like to remind listeners that the views expressed in this podcast are those of the candidates and the interview subjects, and not those of CJSW or its staff. Make sure to visit cjsw.com or the CJSW app to check out our voter education episode and our exclusive mayoral debate. Until then, take care, and please vote, follow, and share.